I played golf. I used to play basketball. My last 2 years, I played indoor soccer. We had an indoor soccer program, and I played varsity soccer. And Charlie Blair was my high school coach. I grew up playing with the Richmond Strikers and then FC Richmond under Dave Amsler. Our Davidson team was put in the Hall of Fame as a team, the second team ever down at Davidson to go in the Hall of Fame back in January.
Being someone who's driven, wants to get things done, on to the next, right? Like, how can we inspire change and do all these great things? How do you balance that with the patience that it takes?
So I would say... I have a great wife.
Yeah.
So, Christian, are you taking notes?
Yeah. What are a couple things that you would, knowing what you know today, right, in 2026, what are a couple things that you would tell that Rob in 2004?
Show people grace quicker. That'd be one thing.
Welcome to the Richmond Leadership Lab, featuring business and nonprofit leaders across Richmond, Virginia. Produced and hosted by Filmspire and BenX.
Welcome back to another episode of the Richmond Leadership Lab. Again, my name is Taylor Quinn. I'm the CEO of Filmspire and Richmond Podcast Studio, which is the home of where we record Richmond Leadership Lab. And of course, joined by my co-host, Christian Mosier with BenX. Christian, how's it going, man?
It's good to be here.
It's great to be here.
Almost done the latte now.
Almost done with the latte. Shout out Ironclad Coffee right next door. If you need a great coffee or latte, they're great. You jazzed up for your golf trip?
I can't wait. I'm excited. It's really competitive. In fact, there's a big group chat of us. There's 16 of us going, and they're already texting, very competitive things. I'm not going to repeat on the microphone, but people are ready.
People are ready. I'm in a group. I do an annual golf trip too, which I'm the least golf qualified person in this room, basically. But all the texts have been all these, unfortunately, Tiger Woods memes, basically, and things like that. So that's a whole other story and things like that.
Also, that reminds me, quick side note, this AI video stuff is getting crazy.
Yeah.
In the group chat, this is what reminded me of it.
Yeah.
In this golf group chat, someone made an AI video of my buddies planning the trip. And it took me like 3 takes. He was like dancing on the dance floor, and it took me like 3 takes to be like, what? Is that? No. Yeah. No.
What a wild world we live in.
Yeah, pretty soon we'll just have avatars.
I know, pretty much. Well, let's get in with our guest today. We are really excited to have an awesome guest here today. If you grew up in Richmond, if you lived in Richmond, and you love sports, you love great food, then you definitely know the Ukrop family. So we are joined by our guest today, Rob Ukrop, who is the CEO and chairman of 22 Holdings. He's obviously with the Kickers. He's with the Ivy and so many other great organizations that he has touched. So, Rob, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you again. We were talking earlier about, some family ties and personal ties and things like that. So I know a little bit of your backstory, knowing like your dad and your brother and things like that. But can you give us what was it like growing up in your family, in the Ukrop family here in Richmond, Virginia?
I really didn't, as most kids didn't really know what my dad did. I knew we were in the grocery business. I didn't know he had a prominent role in it. We'd go to stores, we'd bag groceries, we'd pitch in from time to time. But I just had a great mom, a great dad that was always encouraging. My mom was a cheerleader at George Wythe High School for my dad when he played basketball there, and she's still got her megaphone. She knows all the cheers still, and I think one of the things that really pops into my head instantly is that Mom was always there to encourage us. Like Dad introduced us to so many sports and competitive things, and like I said earlier, I never beat him at anything till I turned 18. Golf, basketball, he would pound me. Running, whatever it was. Dad is hyper competitive. So I feel like that's a quality Dad passed on to me. But my mom passed on this other quality of encouragement. And there's so many times when we're at a soccer field in Innsbruck in 1981 when I'm out there, number 6, and she's screaming, "Score a goal, number 6." And always encouraging me, even to when I played in New England for the Revolution in 1996. I could still hear her yelling in front of 48,500 people at the Meadowlands, the old Meadowlands, against the New Jersey, New York Metro Stars at the time. And, I remember finding her in the crowd, and there's my mom yelling, I was number 19. She's like, "Go number 19." So
Wow.
My mom has this thing of always encouraging and uplifting, and I think it's just one of those things that, as much as my dad's instilled this integrity and competitive side, my mom instilled this encouragement part, whether it's a handwritten note, a card, Sometimes it had $10 or $20 in it, which is always great in college. But just the ability for my mom to encourage others, including me, is great.
Yeah.
Very thankful.
I'd love to know too. It's obviously you grew up in Richmond, but tell us a little bit about the sports you were involved in, and then college-wise where you went to school a little bit, and then kind of I guess when you came back to Richmond.
Yeah. So I went to collegiate. I graduated in 1988. I played golf. I used to play basketball. My last 2 years, I played indoor soccer. We had an indoor soccer program, and I played varsity soccer. And that really, Charlie Blair was my high school coach. I grew up playing with the Richmond Strikers and then FC Richmond under Dave Amsler, and had a really impactful influence on my life. And then Charlie Blair really took over in high school. He long-time teacher, coach there, and just was a great mentor for me, and just reminded me, there's a lot of different pathways to playing college soccer. So had a few opportunities, a few offers. None were scholarship offers. They're just, hey, we have a spot for you. And Davidson was the one that seemed to give me the best opportunity. A guy named Charlie Slagle came up one day, and I remember he knocked on my mom and dad's door, and my mom's like, yes. And he's like, hey, I'm Charlie Slagle from Davidson. It's like, wait, you're a soccer coach? He's kind of this larger fella, and looks like, and he's like, can I make you some food? And he's like, yeah, if you got steak, I love a steak. First thing to my mom, and my mom's like, well, it's gonna take a while. It's in the freezer. I need to thaw it out. So my mom cooked Charlie a steak, and
that's
with just my mom.
Wow.
My mom liked the down to earth side of it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these other coaches and a lot of other people take their program seriously, but he laid it out. He wants a bunch of guys that want to compete and do the best they can to be a teammate and that band of brothers that you always see in sports. So so I ended up down at Davidson, and it was the first time in my life I got down there. My first class, I'm not sure what class it was, but they said they're doing the roll call, and they're like, Rob Ukrop. And I was like, yeah. Put my hand up, sir, it's actually Ukrop. So it was a good reminder at that point, I was on my own. It was my chance to chart my own course and create my own name and legacy, because up here, there's plenty of Ukrop jokes, a lot of food jokes, you crap jokes. I hear all of them, cruel kids in school, right?
Yeah.
But it's a blessing. Certainly great parents, great grandparents, and just so many people that I've got to learn from. But Davidson was really a turning point for me. I'm not sure how they let me in. Coach told me many years later that he had to beg and borrow all kinds of other resources. Hey, we need this guy to come into school. We think he can help us. And so I thought I got it on my own, but clearly I didn't. Hopefully they felt like it paid off for him. But it's just a wonderful, wonderful place to go to college, 1,400 students. So just blessed with that. And, we had a miraculous run. My senior year, I broke my leg. I got an extra year. I always remind people sometimes when things don't go your way, don't put your head down, look at the positive side. So, maybe it's my faith, but something really great came out of that. So 91, I broke my leg at Chapel Hill. It was tragic. We drove back into Richmond, my mom and dad. I've never seen my mom and dad cry. Both of them. I've seen my mom cry, but never my dad. And he's just, I'm sorry your college career is going to end like this. And it's just like something good's going to come out of it. And a couple of months later, coach said, hey, we applied for a medical red shirt. You're going to come back for another year. You've been approved. So I got an extra year at college. I went for an extra semester, and we made this remarkable run to the NCAA Final Four that year.
Wow.
Our Davidson had never made the Final Four in men's soccer. And then to make the story even more fun, that summer, Coach had gone out with Terry Holland, the athletic director, to Kansas City to lobby the NCAA to host the Final Four. So Davidson, around June or July, had been given the Final Four. So the Final Four is going to be played at Davidson, whether we made the tournament or not. So it was sold out. 8,000 tickets were sold out before August 1st. And played a game against UNC Charlotte. I don't know if your uncle was in part of that game, but
He might have been,
we beat him in
honestly.
the NCAA tournament in penalty kicks, and the next round went to penalty kicks against Coastal, and then we scored a fun goal against NC State to invite ourselves to the Final Four at Davidson.
That's awesome.
So,
Wow.
so I mean, I've been blessed to be around wonderful coaches, wonderful teammates that we always put the team first, and I think that's a really great lesson in life. We had our Davidson team was put in the Hall of Fame as a team, the second team ever down at Davidson to go in the Hall of Fame back in January. And we all, 24 out of 25 guys showed up. And just being around these guys, it was amazing just, the success that they've had outside of Davidson in soccer. Only one or two actually continue to play soccer. I was one of them, but the friendships that you build in college, and it's kind of sad. You watch these one and done programs now in all kinds of sports. Just the chance to build relationships with people, which is the most important part if you're going to be a successful leader in life, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have like today where it's just people go to a college for a year now, and then it's just crazy, the NIL and transfer portal and all of that stuff.
How that works out. Yeah.
And so you played competitively afterwards. Walk us through that.
Yeah, so I remember my dad sent me a book. He said, "Hey, well, you'd be the family produce expert." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I'm going to get you some books sent." So there's this produce course that I was supposed to take, and he sent me all these produce books. And I guess I was going to come back and start working for the family business, and I was going to be a produce expert. And I'm like, "Hey, like somebody called. They said they might draft me to play indoor soccer." And then I got a call into the U23 national team, so I went into the camp with them. I played throughout the summer with them, made a trip to France, to Trinidad, Tobago, played the university games. So a bunch of my teammates played in World Cups. Brian McBride, Mike Burns, Claudia Reyna, a bunch of these guys had some incredible careers even in Europe. And I was just blessed to get to keep playing. And then I got drafted to play indoor. The first kickers team started that summer in '93, so I played indoor in that fall once we finished up the kickers season. But I was in and out with the U23s. Had some great moments with them. I got called into a first team camp, leading into the '94 World Cup. And a couple of days before the trip, they called me back and said, "Hey, we decided we're not going to take you." So, that's the how close sports works, right? You just need somebody that believes in you. And I was just lucky. I got to play for 12 years professionally. I bounced around from indoor to outdoor and made a bunch of friends and lived up and down the East Coast and got out to Ohio for a little while. So just so many wonderful relationships that were built. Even today I hear from different players and guys that I played against and played with, and just built a really nice network of people, and tried to stay true to who I am. Somebody that grew up, just a kid that was, I don't say I was overlooked, but, maybe not everybody saw that I had some talent. So it's nice to find people that believe in you. And I think that's the best lesson I can share with anybody is, if you see something in somebody, let them know.
Say something.
I think there's that viral clip of the basketball coach that gets in her player's face, and it's raised a lot of questions about is that tough love coaching, and the first thing she says is, "I believe in you," and that is such a powerful message to teach, to give the young players, the adults. I mean, it's nice to know when somebody has your back.
Yeah. So walk me through then, like timeline wise, and what you did afterwards. Like, when did your professional, you playing like sports career kind of wind down, and then what did that pivot, that transition period of your life look like?
Yeah, so I think it was 2004 was when I retired. It'd been 12 years. I felt like all the energy I put into it, I could reallocate that energy to something else. And at that point, I started doing a lot more coaching. I'd coach multiple teams. I helped out at collegiate, my high school, with Charlie Blair. Fortunately, I ended up with a women's lead job a couple years later. So I just love coaching and working with young people. I predominantly coach on the girls' side. It's fun. It's fun because my dad, he's 79 right now, and he still teaches fifth grade Sunday school at Second Baptist Church. So it used to be when we went to First Baptist, he taught fifth grade Sunday school, and even before, when he was at Second Baptist the first time, he taught fifth grade. So one of the lessons I took from my dad is like, that's something that's important to my dad. And it just reminded him, it kept him close to young people. And really, that's the future. So, it's nice to be successful as a businessman as my dad is, but be able to pour back into young people so that hopefully one day you can see their success. I think that's a really good message. And I just felt like, I'm not sure I'm gifted at a ton of things, but, I know a little bit about soccer. I know how to build a team. I've been part of great teams. So the coaching part was something that just I felt passionate about. My wife doesn't always love it. It keeps me home. It keeps me out of the house sometimes later at night than she would like. But just being able to give back to these young people. I mean, it's funny. I got a message the other day from one of my old former players. She's now an orthodontist in town, right? Peyton Cook. I just hear from different kids that you've gotten to coach through the years, and you run into them, Brendan Doyle, all these different guys that I know, and you run into and you see the growth they've had. And it's just something to look back and say, hey, I was part of their journey. I wasn't the reason they're successful by any stretch, but I got to be, for a short window of their time, I got to invest and pour into them. And I think that's a really, most people are like, what can I take out of the situation instead of what can I pour in to help others? So
Kind of ties back earlier to what you said about your mom too. But the encouragement behind it,
right.
And then encouraging other people and pouring into other people. And so you've been, I guess, pretty much doing some form of coaching in the last 12 years. How has that evolved since you first got in?
I mean, coaching is all about winning now, apparently, which is frustrating to me because you
gotta have the right brand colors.
Yeah, I don't know. I look at it. The whole reason you coach is that, like we just said, you want to pour into people. You want to help them find their full potential, whatever that might be, right? And if you focus on winning, which I love to win more than anybody. My mom and dad at one point, they said we probably need to deprogram you on some level. I took that as a compliment because I'm the most competitive person in the house, right? Maybe not such a great quality all the time, but
strengths can be weaknesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as you look at it, the focus on winning all the time, especially at these younger age groups, it just doesn't make sense to me. See if you can create a team. With every team I've been part of, we've had some high performers, and then there's some other kids that they just haven't fully hit their peak, right? And it's going to come. And those kids, they're probably going to pass some of these other kids down the road. But you can't focus on your best players all the time. You need to develop the team. And I've always found every team I've coached or the team that I've been part of, some of the kids at the bottom of the roster have been some of the most impactful people in terms of how they lifted each other up, how they were prepared, embraced their role. All little things that, they sound like buzzwords, but if you embrace your role when you're part of a team, at some point you're going to do something that's going to help the team be successful. And, it's not based on how many national titles you won. It's not based on how many games you win. It's, do you have long-term relationship with your teammates? And you know what? You're going to be able to help them out down the road. And I think that's a cool lesson.
As a coach, how do you, we brought up this point of emphasis on winning versus really looking at the player at a holistically level in the team like that. What are things you do as a leader to help instill that team camaraderie and that team unity and things like that? And also, though, instilling or working with those players who may not be your top tier players, but how do you help them understand the role that they play? So what are some of the leadership things you do for your team specifically?
Gosh, well, the first thing I do, I make sure I have amazing assistant coaches.
There you go.
The assistant coaches are the ones that do all the work, right? I think the head coach sometimes has to take some of the hits. I think especially in youth space, you're dealing with a lot of parents, and I'm a big fan. I know the messaging is always, don't talk to the parents, and I'm like, I love talking to the parents because I don't know what's going on at home, right? Is the kid having trouble with the sibling? Is there a family emergency going on? Is there somebody facing some health issues? And having understanding of each child that you're working with, it's important so that I can know how to communicate. Is that a kid that you need to call out in front of other kids, or is that a kid that you need to pull aside? Having wonderful assistant coaches makes that job a lot easier because you want to make sure that the kids know that you're invested in them. It's not just, I just need you here because I need you to pay to play, right? You're part of a team, I can remember as a young coach putting a young player on that was probably not deserving of many minutes, but knowing that for their development, they had to be part of it. And it was important. We went on a road trip, giving them 1 minute at the end of the game isn't satisfactory. It doesn't show when I say we're all in this together and you're like, but that kid's only going to play a few minutes. It doesn't send the right message. So, trying to keep kids engaged. Now, obviously, the higher up you go, in high school, I coach over at Collegiate with the boys and girls, and, the best players play. It's how it works. But that doesn't mean everybody can't have a positive experience and pour into the success of the team. Tomorrow night, we've got a U.S. Open Cup match, so my girls' team at Collegiate, we're going to finish practice early, and they're going to grab some dinner probably, and then we're going to head out and watch the first half together, just to be together. So having people away from, I think when you get on an athletic field a lot of times, people feel intimidated because like this is the best player and I have to defer to them. But then you get them into a different setting and they're like, hey, well, they might be the best player, but they might not be very good with a social game, and they might be super shy. So the super social kid that doesn't play much, that can actually bring them out of their shell and make them feel comfortable. I think there's all these different environments that you need to put kids into, and sometimes they're afraid, and sometimes you want them to get out of their comfort zone. But it's no different than running a business, right? You have a bunch of different employees that maybe see the world through different lenses, but for those hours that you're working together, you need to figure out how to get everybody to coalesce together to reach that goal. And with the Richmond Kickers and the Richmond Ivy, we want to be joyful, authentic, united. Those are 3 things that are important. We want to create City Stadium to be a community hub that, no matter what your background is, where you're from, like when you come out there, you feel like it's a safe space to cheer on your local favorite team, maybe have a beverage with us, maybe have a local food truck. It's a local environment where some of the kids on the field, I know with the Ivy and the men's team, there's a lot of kids that went to high school in Richmond. So you can see a kid that went to Glen Allen. You might see a kid that went to the collegiate, St. Catharines, St. Christopher's. Deep Run's got a bunch of representatives out there representing. So we want to make sure that our community, for these sports teams, is reflective of the community.
I want to get to kickers and Ivy in a second, but you brought up the idea. You said having a good assistant coach makes all the difference. What do you look for in assistant coaches? What makes a great assistant coach?
Somebody that's kind. I mean, it's like if they're focused on winning, I feel like that's, like as a competitor, you expect to win. But at all costs, if you think about it, when you always talk about winning and you don't win the game, then everybody walks away disappointed. Soccer, is, I say, the cruelest game in the world, right? You can play brilliantly. And the keeper plays great on the other team. You get a red card, a referee decision. Some days you just can't find the back of the net, and you draw a game or you lose a game that you don't deserve to lose. And it's how it works. But so, with my assistant coaches that I've been blessed to work with, we always talk about let's play beautiful soccer. Let's make the right soccer decision. Let's compete for each other. Let's be great teammates. And when those things tend to happen, part of it is, I've got a collegiate. My assistant coaches, they all work. They teach. So they see these kids on a daily basis. So they hold them accountable. They see them in middle school or high school, and just being able to understand what's going on in these children's lives goes a long way. And, with the Ivy this summer, it's going to be a fun challenge. We got a lot of college kids coming in, some high school kids, and, making sure that they know that we believe in them. And, it should be a fun season.
That's awesome. So tell us, for those who are maybe, newer to Richmond and things like that, tell us about, who are the kickers, who are the Ivy? Tell us about.
Okay, so the Richmond Kickers are the, along with the Charleston Battery, are the longest consecutively run professional team in the country since 1993. There's some other teams that have come in 96, some teams that are in MLS that used to be in the old NASL back in the day, but they stopped and started. But we're one of the few. Charleston and us have been running since 1993. So there's some cool pedigree. We won the 1995 U.S. Open Cup pre-MLS before they came in the next year, which is pretty cool. That's why the U.S. Open Cup means so much to us. But, it's had a couple different owners through the years. The ownership group now is some of my college teammates at Davidson and some other family and local investors. It's a great group. We call it 22 Holdings because on our run to the Final Four in 1992, Alex Giannis, a reporter for the New York Times, came down to interview us, and his headline was 22 educated feet. And the running joke was like, well, we know which ones weren't super educated. That was me and a couple other guys. But, we had a couple rock star academic guys. So it was really, that's where the 22 Holdings came from.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. And then, we added the Ivy in 2024 was the first season. We felt it was important to get into the women's game. It's pre-professional, so we have a mix of college kids from Richmond and high school kids from Richmond. And the season will kick off May 9th. We'll have the Lancaster Inferno come into town, and we want to make sure that these kids have people to look up to. I think the highlight in 2024 for the Ivy, we sold out the first game, and I'm standing there, and there's a kid, Sarah Flamia, who's got a sister that plays at UVA. Sarah plays at UVA now too, and her sister's a U20 international player for the United States, and Sarah's kind of grown up in her shadow. And Jill was injured, and I was standing up there, and this little kid comes up with a Sarah Flamia jersey and asked Sarah to autograph it. And it was like, it just gave me chills. Wow. You see this young player that's finishing up at Goochland High School that's got her jersey on, playing for the Ivy, and this little kid wants her jersey and wants her to sign it. Like that's like the most amazing thing. And that's what we're trying to create with the Richmond Kickers and the Richmond Ivy. Let's create these relationships with families and kids so that these kids have these aspirations to be a professional soccer player one day. And who knows, some of these players are going to turn into veterinarians and doctors, and they're going to be great community leaders for us. So,
wow. How do you balance, like, the Kickers as a brand has been around for a long time, like longevity. Now you also have the Ivy, which is like kind of like this new brand and things like that and focus. How do you balance both of those? Because they're in very different seasons, probably have different, similar, but also different goals and milestones you're trying to reach and things like that. How do you balance those two similar but different brands?
Well, so May and June become very busy because that is when the Ivy season is. So we have a stretch of about, I think, 17 games in 2 months to host at City Stadium, which is great for the community. It stresses our staff, but we have a great staff that, it is fun. I always try to remind the staff, like, when you come out to the game, I know we have a job to do, but just take it in. Like, it's neat to see these young women, young men that come out there. But, they're very complimentary in terms of how we look at this. Soccer fans are soccer fans, we think. Now, if you come at a men's game, there's a lot of kids running around kicking a ball and chasing around up top. The women's game, the little girls watch the game. They watch the game more than the young men. I think it's something new for them, and they can see. And I mean, last year, we had a rush of injuries toward the end of the season, and we started a 38-year-old, and we brought in a 15-year-old in the same game, right?
That's wild.
That's just where we were in the last game in Annapolis. But the goal is, the men, we're looking to win a championship. With the women, we're also looking to win a championship. How do we go about it? It's probably a little bit different with the women just because it's such a short season, and part of it, some of the girls are coming in early and then leave early, and then some come late and then leave late. So what that Ivy roster looks like, it's going to be a 30-person plus roster. So there'll be some rotation and trying to figure out who's available, which might affect the competitiveness a little bit. But, we want to make sure this is something that is the community's and a community asset.
How many games do the Kickers play at home? So you said 17 in a 2-month stretch for the Ivy.
Yeah, so the Ivy will have 7 home games, 5 away.
Okay.
We picked up 2 exhibition games for the Ivy. One, I think, is getting announced today or tomorrow. The other one is that opener. It's going to be Lancaster Inferno. It's a top club in the W League. That'll be a good way to kick off the season for us. The men, I think it's 18 home games for the men. So it's a national season. The preseason started January 15th. The season ends November 15th.
Oh my gosh.
We've already been out to Lancaster, California, just south of LA. We're headed to Spokane next weekend. We were in Knoxville this past weekend. So it's a national table, which is a bit of a travel challenge for all of us. At some point, it'll be more regional in USL League One. But, we have a terrific coaching staff for both the men and the women. We're excited to see what's going to happen. Kind of easing our way in the preseason. I think all of us have been impacted by this preseason, especially on the men's side with the snow and the ice, and then it's hard to move around.
Richmond was shut down for about 60 days.
Yeah,
with the ice. One of the things I want to kind of pull back on Rob a little, or I guess go back on, is one of the things that you said I thought was really applicable about coaching. You specifically said that essentially meet the player where they are at. There's some players where you can call out in front of others, and maybe that's what's best for them. There's some players that, it's probably better just to, talk to them on the side or kind of pull them aside. How do you, is it the understanding of the players? How do you get to a place where you're like, hey, my coaching style needs to vary based on this specific player?
Gosh, I would say, the best lesson I learned, the 2 most influential coaches I had was Charlie Blair in high school, and we played a game up at VS when I was probably a sophomore, and the game went like this. We were up 2-0. I had 2 goals. I was feeling pretty positive and all. And then we gave up 2 late goals, and at the end of the game, the goalkeeper went to punt the ball, and I jumped up to block it, and I got yellow carded, right? It was stupid. I was frustrated. I was 15 or 16 years old, 15 I think at the time. And we go in, back in the day, you shower, put on your coat and tie, and we're sitting in there, and Coach Mr. Blair gives a little team talk, and he's like, Ukrop, that was the stupidest thing ever, and like lit into me, just ripped into me. And I'm like, and I knew I made a mistake, and I sat there and I was like, yes, sir, my apologies. I let the team down, right? And then it was weird. So then everybody's leaving the locker room, and he's like, hey, I need to talk to you. And he's like, come here. He goes, I thought you played great. He goes, that was a dumb yellow card to get, but understand you're frustrated, like, you know, and I just needed to call you out, because if I called you out, it would resonate with other people. So it was this really cool lesson. I was like, wait, so you called me out to make a point for everybody else because you thought I could take it. I like the toughness and the grit that he saw in me.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Wow.
trying to get to know your players, and obviously, you know, I'd been with him for 1.5 years at that point, and he saw something in me, right? So trying to figure out which kids based on, you know, talking to their parents, watching them interact. You know, for me, one of my favorite things about coaching is the first 15 minutes. You know, the kids get there, you know, it's social, especially in a high school environment, even club. It's social time. Let them socialize. Let them talk to each other. And we run a warm up, and I run the warm up. I like to be involved. I like to give them all a fist bump, look them in the eye, and I think it kind of resets and reminds them, like, whatever happened during your day, you know, this is our time. We have 1.5 hours together, and you know, through that, you know, with some jokes and sarcasm, and figure out which college teams they pull for, and which singer they like, and which actress they think is cute, or, you know, actor. All
what movies?
Yeah, there's all these things, and, you know, I think sometimes kids forget, like, when you're on a bus traveling somewhere, like, they're just talking, and, like, the adults, we listen, like, so, you know, we hear some stuff, so you're like, oh yeah, I heard you're going to the dance with so and so, and you know, trying to make sure that they understand that we care about them. It's not just we need you to play good soccer so we win and we get a title. We want you to come out and play good soccer because we think it makes you a better person and lifts your spirits, and it makes you a better human being when you go home, and mom and dad, and, you know, like, we remind the parents, when your kid gets in the car, whatever level, like, don't ask about the game. Like, you know, like, see all the important stuff, and, you know, how did school go? You know, or you need help with your classes. You know, how about we take a daddy-daughter date night, or a mother-daughter, mother-son? Like, all the things that are really important. You know, the sports thing is something that you do for fun. It's an add-on. But the important things, you know, that's where you want to invest in your kids.
We'll be right back after this short message.
Are employee benefits a headache for your company? At BenX, we simplify benefits so you can focus on growing your business. From custom benefit solutions to cutting-edge technology, we make it easy for companies to take care of their teams. Visit BenXConsulting.com to see how we can simplify benefits for your growing company.
Your story is powerful, but is it reaching the right audience? At Filmspire, we create compelling videos and provide marketing strategies to make sure they drive real results. From crafting your message to amplifying it, we help you connect with your audience like never before. Ready to inspire? Let's tell your story.
And now, back to the show.
Over Thanksgiving, we were going down to this Disney showcase, and you know, she went to the doctor like 2 days before we left, and the doctor's like, you know, she can start running again, and, you know, but she can't probably play, right? So mom sends me this long email, she can't play, you know, sorry, but we want her to go on the trip. So we meet the bus, we take the sleeper bus down, and we get on the bus, and her dad texts me, he's like, hey, I packed her boots and her kit just in case you need her for anything. I'm like, what does this mean? So
What are you trying
our
to
first
tell
game,
me
I think
here?
we were playing FC Dallas, and we're down 0. It's late second half. We're down 1-0. We're chasing the game, and she's like, Dad said I can play. So I'm like, all right, put your, you know, she's got her uniform on because she's sitting on the bench, and she puts her boots on, and he's like, he texts me, he's like, I know you're down, like, you can put her in, just, you know, I always tie her shoes for good luck. If you could tie her shoes for good luck, and, you know, she's fine to go in. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like 5 or 10 minutes ago, and Grace was like, I'm ready. So she's like, can you tie my shoes? You know, she's like 15 maybe, 14 or 15.
Yeah.
So I tie her shoes, and we put her in, and ball gets played across the box. She's a center forward, and she's running, the keeper's running, and I'm like, oh no. And there's this massive collision.
Oh, gosh.
She gets a touch, ball rolls into the net. She's laying on the ground, pops up and starts running around celebrating. It was amazing. It was like, and then, you know, of course, I got a call from the mom's. I said, you need to talk to your husband. Steve told me that she could play.
Yeah.
And, but what the messaging for me was like, here's a kid that, you know, this was really important to her. and she wanted to help her teammates. She spent most of the fall not able to help her teammates, and she stepped into this big moment and came in there, scored the goal. We tied the game 1-1, and like it was so cool. It's like
Wow.
these are the you pour in these kids, and like, hey, you want to be, you're part of this team. You're going to add some value to us at some point.
Yeah.
And she came in, and it was a great trip. We went to the parks, hung out, had a great weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, so stuff like that is kind of, you see the growth, and kids, a lot of kids do sports because their parents make them do it. Like I want to live vicariously through you. So finding kids that want to participate because they see the value and they want to make new friends. And, that's the beauty of club sports, right?
Yep.
Club and even the Ivy and the pro team, like you've got players that you didn't grow up with for the most part. You get a chance to interact and engage and learn because, like I think having played and lived in a bunch of different cities and playing with different teams, there's so many different players that I learned things from, like that I would never have been exposed to at collegiate high school in 1988. So
Wow, that's awesome. We mentioned like Young Life earlier by name and things like that. I was a Young Life leader in college and things like that. And one of the big principles we have is like earning the right to be heard. It's like we're trying to develop real relationships with these students to get to know them and things like that. How do you similarly do that with your players and things like that? I'm sure it's conversations about the team and the sport and things like that, but what else do you do with players or even like staff and things like that to really develop
right.
that
Well,
connection?
I know with players, young players, like the message we always give is, hey, I know you're, a lot of these kids are in these ages where there's a lot of temptations, right? There's a lot of peer pressure, all the different things that we all know. We tell them, we said, hey, we're your coaches, but we care about you guys. And if you make a bad decision over the weekend or one night and you need help and you're afraid to call your mom and dad, you can call me, you can call Allie, you can call Michael, you can call Shep. Like we give you these, and it's like, call us and we will come. There will be repercussions eventually, but we will make sure you're safe because we do care about these kids and we've all gone through it. There's moments when you're in a bad situation, some that you put yourself in, some that other people put you into. So, for me, that's a really big part of it. And just like with the kickers, it's joyful, authentic, united. The joyful part's easy, right? Be happy, lift people up. But, authentic, I mean, there's a lot of people that want to be somebody else or try and pretend to be somebody else. Like be core to who you are and just being kind. And actually, like we've had situations where we've sent somebody to pick a kid up and, it was the right thing to do. And mom and dad were fired up. But, sometimes you feel safer talking to a coach versus the parent. Same thing with work stuff. I mean, heck, I remember this is maybe an embarrassing story to tell, but my freshman year of college, like I was trying to figure out if I should break up with my girlfriend or not. She was at school at Salem College, an hour away, and like I kind of felt like I needed to break up. And my mom's like, I don't know what to tell you. She liked her. And my dad's like, well, you should talk to your coach. And I'm like, at the time, I thought, yeah, my dad knows what he's talking about. He sent me to my coach, and he's like, yeah, you should break up. I'm like, what? My coach is like, it's distracting you. Like, you need somebody that understands that soccer is something important to you, right? So then, I drove up and I broke up, which is kind of awkward. But I took advice from my college coach, but it's somebody that I trusted. Looking back, maybe his messaging wasn't super smooth and it wasn't perfect. It was definitely imperfect. But looking at it, like at that time in my life, I needed, soccer meant so much to me, and I didn't need to be distracted about things that took me away from trying to find that full potential.
That's funny. Drive an hour and you're like, well, my coach says that, you know.
Yeah. My coach says I need to break up with you. Yeah. No, that's amazing. How have you translated, all the lessons you've learned through sports and being an athlete and coach and things like that to like just some of like the business side and things like that? What are some of like those lessons or gems you've gleaned to add into some of the business stuff?
Well, I think having leaders in the organization that are top notch, it's like having a great assistant coach, right? So Camp Peary, great guy. We added him in I think it was right at the end of 2019, and he came on board, and he's transformed our business side of operations. He's our team president, COO. He lives right across from the stadium. He's a fantastic leader. He sees the big picture. He pours into his guys and girls, and our staff. It's important for us to, we have so many different folks. He's kind of the steadying hand, and we're all trying to learn, when you push different people, it's the same thing, right? Understanding your staff. And then on the sporting side, Darren Sawatsky is an old teammate of mine from New England. He's been our chief sporting officer, head coach since 2020. We tasked him with a really Herculean challenge that we want to develop young players and sell them to Europe. And we sold our first player to Europe a couple months ago. So Griffin
Congratulations.
Congrats. Yeah.
Six-figure sum with a sell-on fee. So Griffin is now performing in Hungary, but this is a vision that Darren brought to us in 2022 and said, I think we can do this. So we're committed to that project. It's difficult. It's a challenge. We've had some staff turnover. Some people got some new, bigger roles in other organizations. So we're managing that on the sporting side. So, having two people that are really good tacticians, I think is the way to say it. Now, like any organization, there's always conflict within us all, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because
Always
there's so many different
challenges.
ways to see it. And, soccer is a emerging sport. You're starting to see it. I think there's a lot of reasons people come to Richmond Kickers games and Richmond Ivy games. Part of it, it's, you're not out there for an unlimited amount of time. It's 2 hours. And if it rains, you're probably not going to sit there for so long unless it's a compelling game and then you go home, right? So, having the right people, and some of our staff has been with us since 2019, and then we've got some other young folks that have come in and kind of stirred the pot a little bit in a good way. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was at a leadership breakfast a couple weeks ago, and one of the people said something that I thought was interesting, just that if you're like a leader or you're managing an organization or a business and there's no crap to deal with, well, you're probably going to go out of business. Because, as you grow and evolve, there's just different sets of problems, different sets of challenges. And it's kind of helped my perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Well, one lesson that I've kind of been reinforced in the last couple of months is that, there's a lot of emphasis on titles. I'm not really a title person. Like, what I need to do to pitch in to help. One of my favorite things to do is on game day, we set up the stadium to make it look great. And we have our staff does the place was built in 1929. We put some love into it, but there's some other things that need some love over there. And I can't lift a bunch of heavy stuff because I'm old. But one of my favorite things is picking up trash in the parking lot around the city stadium on game day, and just like seeing the neighborhood and just showing that I have pride in the place and other people do too. But one of the things that we talk about within our organization is like, there's not a role that's beneath any of us. I think one of the questions we ask when we have potential interns is like, hey, you willing to be kick roof for the day? I'm like, what does that mean? That means you're going to get in the smelly suit and shake hands and high five a bunch of kids for a couple hours, right? So, nobody is, everybody's
Above.
willing to pitch in, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people get hung up, we were having this conversation the other day, like, when you have a chief in front of your name, like I'm the chief executive, right? And then Camp's the chief operating, and then Darren's the chief sporting, like, you've earned that respect. But at the same time, the chief people, they need to show grace. And like, this is the teaching part, it's like young people, like they make mistakes. I make mistakes, and my wife calls me out. My mom or dad, they reinforce when I maybe cross the line. I know lately we've been taunting some people in our March Madness thread about the Duke loss.
Oh, that was crazy.
But that's you have people that push back on you. So I think the really important part as a leader is to show people grace, because at some point we all need it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're unwilling to show people grace, it's going to be hard for you at some point. So I think that's a really good lesson that, just watching my dad deal with people, like, if you do something that you're not supposed to do, you do something illegal, you do something like, those are fireable offenses, right?
For sure.
Those are easy. But, there's other things when people make a mistake, they maybe don't communicate properly. Like, how do you show them grace and how do you help them grow? Because we're in the business of growing young people to find their full potential.
Mm.
So
That's
that goes
great.
right back to my mom.
Yeah,
So-
the encouragement.
so-
Seriously.
Yeah, and finding the good and just because I feel like there's also a big difference between like servant leadership, which is kind of what you're describing, versus like a leader who's like sits on top, right? Who's like kind of delegating and looking, but it's like a servant leader is like, well, where can I pitch in, or where can I help, or where can I find the good, or where can I, help someone go from A to B. And I feel like a lot of times, at least a lot of the guests that we've interviewed, the ones that have adapted that mentality, you can almost kind of tell it in the culture.
Right.
The employees, in the the way that their office feels, and the way their leadership team feels, and I just think it's a huge kind of soft skill that people don't focus on.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Agreed.
my wife reminded me the other day, I don't have much emotional intelligence, EQ, I guess is what they call it. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, your mom agrees with me. I'm like, great.
Your mom agrees.
Your mom agrees with me.
But I like to get stuff done. Like, like charge forward, how do you help people? And I think, anybody that runs a business, anybody that's in a leadership position, the best, I don't know. You think about everybody wants to be in the spotlight. I know I'm an introvert by nature, so I'm like, I can't wait to get home and sit and watch a show with my dogs and my wife. Like that's my dream night. But
Amen.
yeah. So it gets worse when you get older.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, really trying to inspire that next generation. Like,
Yeah.
how do you give back to this? It's a wonderful city. There's a lot of change that's happened over the last 5 to 8 years.
So much.
But the really cool part is. The thing about Richmond, I think it's two things. I think it's one of the most philanthropic communities in the country, and I think people are relationship built. It's not as transactional. Yeah. It's very relationship built. I mean, just playing the name game of who we know and who we have in common before we got started today, right? It's just simple stuff, and then you never know. You never know. How can I help somebody out, or how can somebody help me out? Right?
Yeah.
Something that I don't know. So
I love that.
How do you balance? Because mindset wise, like being someone who's driven, wants to get things done, on to the next, right? Like how can we inspire change and do all these great things? How do you balance that with the patience that it takes?
So I would say I have a great wife.
Yeah.
So,
Christian, are you taking notes?
Yeah. My wife is, she's like the truth teller. So even if I don't agree with her all the time, she's probably more right than wrong.
Yeah.
But just having somebody, she's like, so you're so nice with everybody out in the community, and you do all, but when you're at home, you're not as nice. I'm like, what? So I'm sure that's true. What is the old adage that the people that you love the most that you maybe don't treat as well as other people. But yeah, just having a great wife at home. Like she manages, she works at Capital One. She does an amazing job over there. She's been there since they started the company. But
wow,
when we got married, she probably didn't know what she was getting into. I'm a little bit quirky and, I'm superstitious, and I love eating at Outback every Friday night.
Yeah.
She loves Outback.
No gummy
now.
bears this year, though.
Yeah, no gummy. I gave up gummy bears this year, but yeah, like, having somebody that has your back, if I have an issue at work, my wife's like, you want me to jump in and solve it? I'm like, I got it, honey. But somebody that you're a partner with, do we see eye to eye and everything? Yeah. No, but my wife has my back. She loves me. I love her. There's not anything I wouldn't do for her. So I think, that's a huge help because, when I'm going down big decisions and I have a conversation with her, my wife, she doesn't hold back. Sometimes it's brutal. But I love that about her.
But it's good. It's needed, right? And in some ways, I feel like too, it can be very comforting as well too. It's just like it's a safe space, right? You know, you're loved no matter what at the end of the day, but they know you so well, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Better than you want sometimes, But
which is why I get confused when she tells me about her day, and I'm all for how to fix it, and she's like, I'm not looking for a solution.
You're right, don't fix it.
I'm like, sorry, but it's just
it's who I am.
It's just who I am.
We're trying to at least. So.
Yeah.
Well, let's do this. Let's wrap up with some fun questions and things like that. I'd be curious. Do you want to ask if you could go back?
Oh yeah.
Question? I love that one.
If you could go back, I guess, because what year did you officially transition from professional soccer?
2004.
If you could go back to 2004, right, and you're talking to Rob right here, you have like 3 minutes, right, just short amount of time, and then boom, there he goes. What are a couple things that you would, knowing what you know today, right, in 2026, what are a couple things that you would tell that Rob in 2004?
Show people grace quicker. That'd be one thing. Maybe don't be so competitive with my family. But that's kind of what my mom and dad trained us to do. Trained us to be encouraging and competitive.
Yeah.
So
we have some broken rackets. I'll get into that story later.
Yeah, no, we I mean, gosh, like just appreciate the time with the people that aren't here now, right? I mean, grief is a difficult thing, different people, that have an impact on you, grandparents, aunts, just different people that have been part of it. Part of our journey, we have a family farm down in Verina that's been around since the early 1900s, and we've had Ukrop family members going down there every Sunday for years. So we're going to go down for Easter this Sunday. That's and, there's a bunch of those people that aren't around anymore. And on Sunday, you'd eat lunch, you'd sing the doxology, they'd pray, you'd eat, and then you go compete. We play different things with my uncle Tim Corman, who lost his life tragically several years ago, and you know, my uncle Brent. I mean, these were great competitors, great athletes. You know, my granddad, my uncle Sam, like all these people that, you know, like I'd play golf with them, and they'd take me to, you know, we'd water ski and do the disc and all these little things they taught me. And you know, I think my reflection is like, I'm hoping that I can pour into other people as much as they poured into me. Wow. Right. And I think that's maybe a tall order to fill. But just all those memories. And then, you know, one of the cool things, my grandmother, you know, LD Ukrop, she was amazing. You know, I'd stay down there for a week and do a work week with my granddad, and she'd make us breakfast and meals, and she'd sit there and just talk to me and love me. And, you know, I think my coolest thing, and I got to college, and you want to go to the farm before you left, because my granddad would give you a handshake, and in the handshake there's usually a 20 or maybe two 20s. And I just remember this one Sunday, you know, all these people pouring in. They may, you know, I was a college kid, so I'm like, I can't wait to shake granddad's hand. I got $40.
Yeah, $40 coming my way.
And then when I'm leaving, my grandmother comes over and she hugs me, and she's like, hey, she shakes my hand, and I'm like, Granddad already shook my hand. She goes, don't tell him. Yeah. And I got like another six. So I ended up with like almost $80 or $100. Like I'm like rich. Like, you know, it was amazing. So I'm like, I'm so glad I came down here. But you know, looking back, it wasn't about that. It was like somebody that believed in me, and you know, it reminded me, hey, go do a good job down at Davidson.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing. That's great. Well, some fun questions if you're up for it really quick. We love Richmond, and gosh, we always ask people kind of like, what's their go-to? Well, you mentioned Outback, but I was going to say, what's your favorite restaurant in town?
I mean, it used to be L'Italia. It's since closed many years ago up there, right off Pump Road in Patterson. Yeah. But my wife, you know, we have an anniversary, so maybe I'd say Gersie. She really likes that place.
Yeah. And a birthday coming up. Yeah.
The only problem is like I like places where I can fit. I'm kind of big, so like when I go into Gersie and it's dark, and I'm like I feel like I'm jammed in. And I'm just impatient.
It's definitely the vibe now. These dark, intimate, you know. Yeah,
and like
can't really see the menu.
But Outback's our place. I mean, like we go into Outback, and I'm like, we know what we want. Yeah. Can we just order now?
Yeah.
Like, we're in 30 minutes. It's great.
Yeah. Rob, we got your table already, and your order's already in as soon as you walk in the door. That's amazing.
Surf and turf, you got it.
I don't know if you've ever thought of this question or answer this question, but because I feel like you've just been into competitive sports your whole life and things like that. But if you weren't coaching, weren't doing all this, what would you be doing?
Or weren't playing.
What would Rob be doing in another life?
I wasn't coaching. Yeah. Playing. I mean, my guess is I'd probably be working at a nonprofit. Okay. You know, like doing things where you can actually see tangible benefit. Yeah. I think one of my most impactful moments, I got to be part of the Meals on Wheels board before they merged with Central Virginia Food Bank to create Feed More. Yeah. That was a really cool, long but cool story on how that all evolved. But I started volunteering at Meals on Wheels. Somebody invited me to be part of it. So I used to do a route every Wednesday, and I got to know these people. Like you just think they're these passengers, or not passengers. Like these are your delivery clients, and you get there, and you know, consistency, kindness, how you win people over. There's a lady named Dorothy Pope. I remember I got to her place, and the first day I go up to her to the door, and I do this knock. That's what my mom always did. So I did the knock, and she opens the door, grabs the food, and shuts the door. I'm like, huh. So then next week, same thing, same routine. So we go like 2 or 3 months. Yeah. And then one day she's like getting dropped off for a cab she was coming from. So I like, can I give you a hand? She's like, nods her head, and I put my arm out and walk her up the steps, walk her in place, give her food. She shuts the door, not a thank you or anything. And I'm like, so then like the next week, I'm not there at all. I had a conflict. So then the next week I do and then she goes, and she opens and she goes, where were you last week? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, where were you? I'm like, I had a conflict. She's like, well, I was expecting you. I said, I didn't know we were friends. You haven't talked to me yet. And she goes, no, I appreciate your knock every time. Wow. And then she's like, you want to come in? So I went in and sat in, and it was just a good reminder. Like, I think being able to serve people and help people, you know, whatever the situation, you know, I think there's a lot of people that do it for the optics, or, oh yeah, I got it. You know, my job, it gives you 1 hour a week to volunteer or whatever. Like, I don't know. It doesn't mean seems like you're just doing it to get the credit. Just finding meaningful things you can do to pour back. And I think it's cool when people don't know about it. You just go do stuff. So probably a nonprofit world, that was a rambling long answer. Sorry.
No.
Yeah,
Great
no,
answer.
I love it.
Great story, too.
And a lot of times, something I'm thinking through is a lot of the things you do, you'll never know about. You know, the people you pour into, or the the things that you do in secret. Like, obviously, sometimes people are like, oh, and it's pretty obvious, when they say something. But there's a lot of times you might pour into people, and maybe a decade later, or maybe a long time later, something.
No, I mean, I think that's spot on. I know when I first started coaching, I had this really special group of girls. I had them for 6 years, and at one point they were ranked number 1 in the country. Like everywhere we went, people came to watch them play. They all did great in college and place and are super successful people now. But it's probably a year or two ago, I just got this handwritten note from one of the kids' dads. He was probably the hardest parent I had to deal with. Like from day one, he's like, "We need to win." I'm like, I'm not telling him that. We're just going to go have fun. We're going to play and have fun. And then the team kept getting better, and he kept the push from him was much. Hey, this is pretty good. You're right about this. And about 2 or 3 years ago, he wrote me this really nice handwritten letter saying, "Hey, thank you for what you did working with my daughter and pouring into her. And, I know I was a pain in the butt. He's a little bit different language. But I really appreciate what you did for my daughter. It goes a long way. He had 2 daughters, so I had to work with the older daughter as well. So just one of those things, like those are the things that you get really excited about. You're like, wow, this is cool, because sometimes, but you can also tell when you see people and, they're part of your life now. Like, trying to stay in touch with kids. And Coach McKillop, the basketball coach out of Davidson, like he didn't tell me, but I think his assistant, he writes a handwritten note to all of his former players on their birthday. Like it's like
that's crazy.
The little details, little things that you do, and it goes such a long way.
Yeah. He had I guess one player that ended up doing okay.
Yeah, Steph. He had a pretty good career.
So. He did all right.
He did all right. Yeah. Well, wrapping up, we'll ask about anything coming up or announcements. This episode will be posted at the end of April-ish, basically, and things like that. So let us know about announcements or anything like that for, I guess, more like May in that time frame. But one thing we love to do on this show is we want to ask, what's a nonprofit you want to shout out? Because as a show, we give a small donation to our guests and their nonprofit if they're choosing. So if there's a nonprofit you'd like to shout out that we could make a small contribution to, we'd love to do that.
So the name of the group is called RV Access. It's a special needs soccer program that we've been running for years. We run it through the stadium city stadium lease is held by the RVA Sports Foundation, and RV Access operates under them. So that's a nonprofit. They've helped pour a lot in the city stadium, but more importantly, we have a great leader, Carter Yisley. Her dad is Charlie Blair, my old high school coach, and she runs a special needs soccer program. And around the country, it's called Top Soccer. We rebranded. We thought Top Soccer was really confusing and hard to explain, and I still don't really know what Top Soccer means other than it's special needs. So the RV Access, because we're available to all kids. So she's done a great job. We had our first event was over at Collegiate on this past Saturday. I just talked to her on the way down here, and she said that they had 30 kids, special needs kids, sign up. 60 kids showed up.
Wow.
And we use young volunteers, high school volunteers. It's not club affiliated. They just come out and pour into these kids for an hour, and it's great. We've built a lot of great relationships with some young families. There's a kid named Tegan Higley. She's a friend of ours. She's battling some serious health issues over the last 3 years, but she comes out of the program. She loves the RV Access program. She's got the same buddy the last couple of years.
That's so cool.
And then we got another guy named Little Ryan. He's got Down syndrome. Ryan and Tegan are best buddies. They went to the Team Tebow dance together recently.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So
cool.
These relationships,
the
night shot. But these relationships that you build with these kids, they come out to games and they cheer on. And, I'll give a shout out. One of our pro guys, he got back from Knoxville on Saturday and came straight over to Collegiate to participate. Majib, a new right back, he was amazing. Like he came out there and worked with these kids. Like, we lost a tough game the night before, coming back on a bus trip, and he went right over to help out these kids. So RV Access is really something that we think is doing great stuff in the Richmond community.
That's great. Yeah, we'd love to
really
do
cool.
that. Well, any shout outs or announcements coming up, things that we know for the
Fill
spring,
the stadium.
for the summer.
Come out. I mean, we had 5,494 fans at the home opener last Saturday.
Wow.
We're back home. We we play throughout the summer, throughout the spring, throughout the
Yeah.
fall. So just go to richmondkickers.com.
Cool.
Come out and see Kickers at Ivy's match. If you guys want to come out, let me know. I'll send you some tickets.
Yeah,
love it.
absolutely.
But yeah, appreciate the time with you guys
Yeah.
today. It's
Yeah.
been fun.
It's
Good
been
luck
a
with your
blast.
golf trip.
Thank you.
Both of you.
Thank
I
you.
know.
Yeah, exactly. We'll
So.
need it. Rob, thank you again. Really appreciate it. It's great to have you in here. We were thinking about leaders this year to have on the show. I was like, we got to get Rob in the seat. So it's been great to finally meet you, and big fan of you and your family. So thank you again for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.